Got two pairs of shoulders going on. I'll wait for your thumbs up. This time, I'll make sure I watch you. Thanks for joining us on Dealcasters. We're getting ready. We're about to go live on Amazon. We appreciate you joining us. Stick around. We have the visual marketing maestro, Mr. Jeff Sieh. See you on the other side.
Thanks for having me on, guys. This is awesome. Love gear, love talking all about it. So yeah, this is going to be really fun.
I'm so excited. You guys are, everybody, please share this out. Hit that like button. Follow these guys.
When you collaborate, you're building community. So there's so many things you can do for a business with a podcast, for sure.
Yeah, I love that.
How's it going?
Who was talking to you, Siri? I said the A lady. Ooh, Siri's getting frosty because I'm talking to the A people over here. And she's like,
Should I eat this?
Yes.
Because people really want that kind of conversation and relationship.
Yeah, and your show won't be boring.
Right?
Oh my God, I love you guys. Chris, you're just amazing. Jim, so are you. You guys are the best hosts ever, I think.
Just got it.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, beautiful people of planet Earth, welcome to Dealcasters Live. And if this is your first time checking out the show, where have you been all our lives? We appreciate you for showing up. We got some new bells and whistles happening today because there's no better time than to test out things with other people that are coming on the show that know exactly what testing out things is all about. So if something goes wrong, we can always consult our guest who's coming on here in a few minutes. True. So my name is Chris Stone. I'm at Cast Ahead, and gentleman on the left side of your screen doing marketing the Marine Corps way, Mr. Jim Fuse. How are you doing, my sir?
I am doing great. Great to see you. And I want to publicly say, even though it's a day late, happy birthday to your bride. I hope you guys had a great time yesterday.
Well, she doesn't watch the show, but
I know. But at least it's out there forever. We said it, right?
Okay.
Like, the legacy is we wished her happy birthday June 15th, 2023, when you come back and watch the replay. But excited to have our guest. Jeff and I have become friends back in the days of floppy disk and Google Plus.
I don't have a drink with me. I don't have a drink. Oh my gosh. It's like the one thing I can't forget when you have Jeff Sieh. It's like, we'll talk about the inside joke here later, because we're going to get into something that we love to call community. And people toss that word around, but Jeff Sieh in Social Media News Live is someone who curates a fantastic community. And one of our little inside jokes, not so inside, a lot of people know about it, is he likes to talk about Google Plus, and every time he says Google Plus, I take a drink of coffee in the middle of the day.
Yes.
How dare you think it was something else? Catherine Lang, thank you for joining us. Not only is she joining us on YouTube, but she's decided Facebook too. Like this is
She's
Catherine.
everywhere.
You're a favorite person, most favorite person ever, right, Jim?
Yes,
Oh my gosh.
absolutely.
And following us. Thank you for that. So that we're going to run into a little housekeeping, and we're going to introduce our guest because you guys are not here to see us knuckleheads. You're here to see the bearded one, the head beard, we're going to introduce. But little housekeeping. So if you're on any of the other tubes, and we're all over the place. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, And yeah, come on over and have lunch with us, Catherine. Anytime, you're welcome. You know, Jim's a fantastic cook, and we can come over to where's Lake Gunnersville? Where Jim? Do you know
Alabama.
where that is?
Alabama. I think she's near Huntsville.
Oh, right on. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
That's where Kirk Nugent is. That's his
Wow. We
neck
could
of
have
the
a big
woods.
lunch.
There you go.
Even though I think I saw he's in South Africa or something crazy like that.
Ah, okay.
Traveling.
And it looks like the Amazon chat is not cooperating again because I'm seeing some folks over on Amazon. I've got one eye over there, but it's not coming in on Ecamm. But Monty Weaver, we see you. Thank you for the hashtag Dealcasters over on Amazon. So if you want to come over to Amazon, and why wouldn't you want to come over to Amazon, especially if you have yet to see an Amazon live stream, we've made it easy for you to do. You don't have to go and say, where do I find this, that, or the other? We made it easy. All you got to do is go to dealcasters.live. Just open up a browser on your phone or on your computer. It'll take you right here to this show here on Amazon where Monty Weaver, the star-studded chat, over there. But listen, if you want to hang out on LinkedIn, that's cool. Button yourself up, get your dress and your tie on and stay over on LinkedIn. That's okay. I understand, but it's all good. It's all good. So Jim, any other housekeeping that we need to get into before we roll it over?
No, I think we're ready to bring in the bearded wonder.
The bearded wonder. Okay. Excellent. So without further ado, would you please welcome the head beard of Social Media News Live? And he's Jeff Sieh. You're not. Please welcome Mr. Jeff Sieh. How are you, sir?
Thank you so much for having me. Oh my gosh. Yes, Google Plus. Take a drink of coffee. Sure, it's coffee, Chris. We know better.
Oh, wait. I do.
It's
I
not
have
water.
a
It's
bottle
tequila. Yeah, it's probably tequila.
Tequila was doing it.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good to be over here. Sorry, I don't know why I've had some issues with Amazon Live recently too. So mine didn't go out last week. So it's like
we'll have to have a chat with
something.
Ken and Glenn and Doc and the family.
I don't know if it's them or Amazon, to be honest. I think it's probably more on the Amazon side.
Yeah, it could be. That's usually if there's a chat issue, it's probably something to do with the platform, and sometimes Facebook has issues. LinkedIn typically has maybe more issues than
the joys of multi-streaming.
Yes, the joys of multi-streaming. So, ladies and gentlemen, the beautiful, gorgeous gentleman in the center of your screen does a lot of things. And one of the things that I really enjoy about Jeff Sieh is the way he orchestrates a live show and a podcast and really kind of takes it as the center of one thing and then pulls it apart and turns it into like hundreds of other things. And, we try to emulate a lot of things with content creators that we admire, Jeff being one of them. And so having him on our show for the second time is something that I'm stoked about. And Jeff, I know you're starting a course for people for Descript to learn Descript, sort of a one-on-one, 101, I should say. And really kind of like a beginner type of deal, right? And I think you being someone that has started live streaming before the webcam was even invented, and doing this for so long, sometimes you forget, right? There's this thing called a curse of knowledge where you have all of this technique and all of this all this stuff that you've done over the years, and you just kind of assume everybody knows everything. And now you're in this situation where you're years along and there has been changes, but there's some things that really haven't changed about live streaming and putting together a show and putting together a podcast. So someone who is just getting into this thing and they see all of this stuff and they see what Jeff Sieh's doing, what Monty Weaver's doing, what Jim Fuse is doing, what all these people are doing. Ross Brand is now in the chat on Facebook as well. So when we put aside the curse of knowledge and we say to someone, hey, here's where you start. Here's where you start. Here's the first thing you need to think about doing before you put together the Jeff Sieh tree. You got to start with these seeds. What would that be?
I talk about Google Plus a lot, but I also talk about on my show is Lou Mongello and momentum. And I have this on my desk. He gives this little challenge coin when you go to his conference, and I've been lucky enough to speak there a couple times. But on the back of it, it says this little quote. It says, "The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing," and that's by Walt Disney. And that's one of the things that I think that we can get hung up on gear, and I know I did. Nothing, you want to wait till everything's perfect, you got enough time and all that stuff. You just got to do it. Like, even if you there's nothing wrong, just start with your phone. Like, I wish I would have started a long time ago. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just do it. Turn on the camera. Other things, you're going to have to decide on what kind of show you're going to want to do, and that's just doing research. I typically like to do what you guys do, is in an interview show. I love doing interview shows or having somebody with me. Like when I've done shows, I've always had either people on there with me, or when we first started Social Media News Live, I had Grace Stuffy as my co-host. We left another program and came and started doing our own. And so having that together where we can bounce back and forth, when you're producing a show, it gives you a little bit of wiggle room. Like, when you put me up full screen, you can look ahead at the comments, and you can, when Jim's talking, you can be like making sure the stream is still going out and all that stuff. So that's the kind of show I like to do. Some people like to do like solo shows. Like you mentioned Kirk Nugent. He does a solo show where he gets up and talks a lot of time and teaches. Bradley Teaches is another one. Marshall Fox, who I'm going to have on my show tomorrow, does the same thing. He teaches live. That's fine if you want to do it. For me, you just got to figure out what kind of show you want to do. So do research, and then just study. Like, if you're doing an interview show, I had the best interviewer of all time, in my opinion, is Johnny Carson. And so there's a channel for free you can watch that's all just Johnny Carson. And look how he asks questions. Look how he makes it entertaining. Look how he handles things when they don't go right, because they didn't go right a lot of times.
Yep.
And, even today, watch the late night hosts, how they're asking questions, the way they're bouncing things up. I know when I started Social Media News Live, I looked at how you guys were doing things. I looked at your branding, how you were doing it, how you were doing the pattern interrupt on your short form stuff. So you want to do a lot of studying. Just don't click a button and go live, but study the things study the people that you want to be like. You don't want to rip them off, but you want to study those. Like, I really wanted to do better at community. So I jumped into Lou's group, which is all about community. He does it better than anybody I have known. eCams, their community is amazing, the way they foster community. Most of the people they have working for them started in the community. So those are kind of the things that I would say, do research, just do it, just go live, break things, and then just keep going and be consistent.
Break things. Catherine Lang, I don't even know how to pronounce this person's name, but every day you put it off, you will be more or less of something else. It will never be perfect, but you'll never get closer to perfect until you start. That's great. That's great.
Yeah. Another quote that I love is by John Acuff. He says, 80% perfect and shared with the world always changes more lives than 100% perfect and stuck in your head. So that's one of the ones I really like.
Yeah, I think you said something early there, Jeff. You talked about, you prefer a show to where you've got somebody else to bounce some things off of, and that's what this show is. And Jim has another show that he does with Tim Zone. Typically, I know Tim took the last month or so off, but it's one of those things where if you just go solo, that can be very, especially for someone who's just starting out, that is super, super intimidating. So it was one of those things where I think right now I could go solo and kind of work my way through it, I guess. But Jim and I, when we decided we wanted to do this show, being able to work together and surround yourself with another person or other people who can help you through that, who can help sharpen the irons and just kind of be honest with each other too. I think don't you think it's important that you surround yourself with someone that's not just going to tell you what you want to know?
Yeah. I have plenty.
I should say.
I have a lot of friends they'll just tell me no, that's stupid. No, that color looks bad. That color for you, that logo. No,
don't talk about Eric Fisher that way.
Yes, that's And I tell this story in one of my talks where when I was first doing the manly Pinterest tips, and I had it as a, it's got my beard on it. It's an old one, but I use it for my podcast. And it was blue, but it was that blue that it was like if you were slowly choking a Smurf, it'd be that kind of color. It was horrible and hideous. And my friend, at least I said it to her, and my friend Lisa Meredith says, no, that's horrible. You can't use that. I'm like, okay. And so having those type of friends, yes, you're right. It's very, very important that you have those type of people who will speak truth when it sucks. The other thing I would say is practice. Like there's a lot of people who I would go like, why didn't they practice like what button to press? I would practice like, because there's so many things to do and it's easy to be overwhelmed when you finally hit that live button, is I would sit there and practice pushing the buttons. And I have a way I set up my stream deck that I can almost do it without looking at it anymore. But practice bringing up those lower thirds or switching cameras like Chris just did. Practice that. You can go live in a private Facebook group and see how it looks later. I would practice. I would sit there and practice and think about, okay, if my internet connection dies, what am I going to do? Because it will happen. Yep. I mean, it will. It's just things are. I tell another story where I had cashed in all my, it was way back in the beginning in the Google Plus days, that I cashed in. It was my first big guest, and I got Guy Kawasaki. He didn't know me at all, right? At all. And so I had just, I had got everything ready. I was all set. It was like my first solo show. Like it was the first time I did, I think, Manly Pinterest tips by myself. And I had a water bottle, and it was one of those, this isn't it, but it was a plastic one. And he was in the green room, and I'm getting ready to go live, and I went and hit the side of my desk with it, and the whole bottom fell out. And so my all this ice water drained into my crotch, and hey, we're live, and so I'm doing the entire show with ice water underpants. And so it was I was very alert, but those things will happen. They will happen, and you need to be prepared for it, because and once so many bad things have happened to you, nothing really phases you anymore. Like I have lost power, like complete power. The alarms are going off, and I knew what to do. I knew how to restart the show, get a new key, and not panic, and know that you are going to panic the first couple times it happens. You're going to just like, oh my gosh, what happened? I lost my guest, and you'll learn how to go on without a guest, because I've had to do that before as well. So it's just,
that reminds me, and Chris probably remembers New Year's, the New Year's 2023 show for the Tim and Jim show. I was producing and had not thought to Tim should be in as well. And we had just a quick power surge, and Troy Sandage was like big on screen and everybody else is small. And my internet and everything is out, and I'm trying to reboot. I have no way to call anybody for a few minutes. And so I finally, got back up. Probably, I don't know. It seemed like forever. Maybe it was 10 minutes, but it's just that whole thing of, or at least I don't think anybody panicked. It was just hard for the next person to speak. But what I did do is I was like, all right, I went and bought these surge protectors that run a battery, and I put it on all my stuff. So even at a minimum, my internet and everything will run for a few minutes if something like that were to happen again, because you just never know. And so you learn these things.
Is that surge protector available in the carousel on Amazon right now?
Maybe we should add it.
You should. Right down here. Get it, everyone. So another piece of advice that I would say, and it's not one that I don't think a lot of people think about, but anytime your camera is on, act like it's live, because somebody can be recording it, or you can actually be. So it comes from a story. I had a friend of mine on, they were co-hosting, and the show's over. Thanks everybody. Appreciate you. Share it out to everybody. And then I said, okay, the show's over. And we started talking smack about somebody that we shouldn't have.
No.
And it was and we were doing on for 15 minutes. And then somebody, I saw a comment comes on hey, do you guys know you're still live? I'm like, holy crap. And so I was able to get it and pull it down really quickly. And that person we were talking smack about never found out. But always treat your live, when you're talking to somebody pre-show or after the show, always treat it like you're going out to everyone. So and don't talk smack about people. That's just not nice.
Yes. So, that should, yeah. I mean, that serves you right there. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Catherine says, once everything that could go wrong has gone wrong, you don't worry when something goes wrong. That's good. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And usually when something goes wrong and you're freaking out, it's not the end of the world either.
No.
Like you're not going to die if your power goes out and your live stream goes down. You know, you're not going to die. Denise says you need a surge pants protector. Okay,
That's
we'll
right.
add that to the carousel. We
I just need
appreciate
one
it.
normally. I think it's the brand name is called Depends.
Yes.
Depends is what I just wear them all the time now.
Right.
So.
And so Ross Brand locked himself out before a show and had to break in to get to the show on time. That's an amazing story.
Wow.
That's funny.
That
I'd
is-
love to see Ross crawling through a window trying to get to his live show. That just is funny.
Powers of Marketing in the house. Megan Powers, thanks for joining us over on the YouTubes. And if anyone's joining us from any of the other places, it's fine to hang out there if you want. But if you want to come over to Amazon, just go to dealcasters.live. And speaking of Amazon, Jeff, Social Media News Live, I think that's still the name. Right?
Yes, it's going to
This week.
change as soon as I get all the assets together. You know how that is. When you're trying to change something and doing a little bit of rebrand, same kind of show, same kind of flow, but we are going to change the brand. It needs a refresh. So that's what I'm doing.
I've said this before, and I mean it, and you know it. I think it's my favorite show. My favorite live show on the internet. It is, and there's a lot of different reasons. It's not just because, I sort of know you, and we've seen each other at conferences and have sort of that social media connection and all of that stuff. But I think the show is really, really interesting, and it helps me and it serves me. And I think when we talk about people that, just need to get started, like you're talking about, I think one of the other things you got to realize is you got to know who you're talking to. And when you know who you're talking to, then you know the kind of people you can bring on as guests, because those people will help you to help them, to help the people that have issues. There's lots of times you'll have a guest on the, tell me again, the guy who does Magi.
Dustin Stout.
Dustin.
Yeah.
And like all the stuff that, all of your guests talk about it's like sometimes it doesn't relate specifically to me. Because it may be like a social media platform that I don't do, but they have elements that are evergreen across multiple platforms. It's maybe specific related to Instagram, or maybe specific related to Pinterest, or specific related to creating a course or something like that. But there's always some really interesting things that you can pull out, and you do a really good job of including the community. How would you work with, or kind of tell somebody who's getting started, what are some key sort of tactical things that you could do when you're putting together a show like you do in order to pull in that community?
So one of the things that I try to be really, that I just built, this kind of my core strategy is like, it's not about me. I mean, and I hope that people can see that I am so excited. I mean, Friday's my favorite day because I get to talk to people and bring people in and introduce new people to my audience. And I love it. Because I get to just talk with them. And luckily that people think that the questions I ask are something that they find interesting, because I really enjoy it. But I make it about my guest. It is always about my guest. In fact, if you look at my repurpose, which I do a lot of repurposing of my show, I'm not really on it. It's usually a question that they are answering. And to me, what that does, it lets me get really great guests, because they know that it's not about me. It's it'll be their show, and I'm focused on them, and I repurpose it, a ton. And that also, I don't have a hard time getting guests because they know it's going to be about them. We've all seen those shows that you can tell that the host is just waiting for the guests to stop talking so they can talk, that so they can pitch their services or whatever, or always bring it back to them. I really don't want that at all. And you mentioned the community, and we have such a great community over there. And I have 3 sections to my show almost every time. And I have 5 questions that I come up before the show that I send to my guests for each of those sections. But I tell my guests, like, we may not get to any of these, or it might bounce around, because I will pull in my community's comments before I'll go to my questions, because I want it to be about the community. And in fact, what I've done, and this is one of the things we kind of talked about earlier about being able to switch and having a partner so you can bounce around and kind of keep things going, is that if there's a question that I was going to ask, but I see that my community has asked something similar, I'll pull that one in instead and not ask mine, because I want it to be their avatar on screen. I want it to be their comment. People don't realize how, I think people will wait to the end of the show because they want to have a chance to have their question answered. I think that's kind of a strategy you can use in your live show, that they know that if they ask a question, I'm going to try to answer it. I think it gets people coming back and people commenting. And in fact, people will actually take screenshots of their question and post it to Instagram or to the socials or to Twitter. Gary Stockton does that all the time. He sends he'll take a screenshot of his question being asked or answered and then post it to different places. So it's just a cool thing. People love to see their face on screen, and I try to do that as much as I can.
And Jeff, I remember like one of the first times I saw you speak, which was at, I believe, 2018 at Social Media Marketing World. You were talking at that point really about much more about like visual, stuff, fonts and colors and that. So when did you like really get more into doing this video stuff? Because I think one thing that I think is encouraging, and I know Chris and I talk about this, because Chris hasn't which people may not believe, Chris hasn't been a video editor all of his life. He's just put the work in. And I think you as well. I mean, when did you really kind of fall in love with this idea of creating, or I guess doing video editing?
So I've been doing video editing since that's the first thing I started with my company. I was doing corporate videos back with the mini DV tapes. Remember those? Oh my gosh. So before even solid state drives. Yeah. So I was doing it with that. I had one of my services that I would offer was, remember the CD-ROM business cards that you could have like your business card and you would give it to people and it would spin in the disc and then make a presentation. So I would do those. And I actually had a robotic machine that would take it and duplicate it and then print it, So I did that for a while. So I think I've been doing video since like Premiere 2 came out. I mean, I remember when I got a big brick of a hard drive and it was like 380 megs. And I was like, yes, I'll never need it again, any more space, but that, of course. So I've been doing video for a long time. So it's always been part of my backbone. And then when live video came out with like Google Hangouts on air, and I don't know why they dropped the ball on that, because you had comment tracker, you could bring in comments back then. And so having that engagement, one, I'm just kind of lazy. And if you do video, you have all this stuff that you can repurpose afterwards. Like you can have a podcast, you can have a blog post, you can have all these clips now on social media. So it's always kind of been kind of the backbone of it. And I am not a trained designer. When I worked for a company, there's a designer who kind of took me under his wing, and he was really good and taught me a lot of stuff. And I don't consider myself a designer at all, but I enjoy dabbling, I guess. But I really like the visual aspect of everything, video, and then, animation and all that kind of stuff is just always fascinated me.
And I'm going to kind of take a bit of a left turn here, because it just, this conversation reminds me, because we're going in the Wayback Machine and we're talking about floppy disks and all of that.
And Google Plus.
Right. And hang on, let me take another drink here. Yeah, Google Plus. Taste goes down nice.
Taste great. That's filling.
So the future, and I mean, the latest, I don't know if you saw the TikTok of Mike Alton on the Agora Pulse thing, and it's this AI TikTok that they did, and it's fantastic. So shout out to the Agora Pulse team for putting that thing. But like, there's just so much right now, this booming, just slap AI, slap that sticker on everything.
Right.
It's like, remember when albums were coming out and they'd slap the parental advisory thing on it, and that it sold more because it had the parental advice. Now just slap the AI onto anything. Oh, this is AI. It's like, well, it didn't used to be, but we're calling it that. But anyway, I think, you were on Ian Anderson Gray's show recently, and they were talking about the future of live streaming. And it relates to the community aspect of what we talked about earlier. And I wanted to really kind of let you kind of speak to that, because I think we're all just super nerdy about everything, Descript and
Right,
all of
right.
these AI tools and ChatGPT, and we're using all the things. But there's a lot of things that I think related to the future that don't have to do with AI that AI can't do. And I wanted to kind of like get your take on the future as it relates to AI and video and live streaming.
Yeah. So first of all, I agree with you with AIs being slapped on everything. My Instapot is going to have
Yes.
AI enabled. Like they have. Remember Wi-Fi and it's on your fridge now, and I mean,
Right.
so it'll cover AI refrigerators. So I am excited. One, there's a couple reasons for AI. I mean, I know it's scary. Like if I was a copywriter or even an agency, I'd be a little nervous because
Oh yeah.
it's going to replace some jobs. And it's not because, I mean, as of now, I mean, humans are better, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the sad thing is companies will do, like, if it's okay and I don't have to hire somebody, that'll work. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
just the way a lot of companies operate. And I can see that's going to replace a lot of, even social media managers, even stuff that I have done in the past. I think it's going to be replaceable. But for live video, I think it's going to really drive people to this stuff because, for one, when they see the written word, they're going to be like, okay, it says it's not AI, but I don't know if I believe it or not. I just don't know if I can trust the written word as much as I used to, like blog posts and stuff like that. Plus, it can be churned out, I mean, at just crazy rates right now. So I think people are going to be hungry for live video, especially for the community aspect of it, because one, loneliness is at an epidemic. I mean, the Surgeon General even had something that released, I think, last month about it. And there's nothing, AI cannot replace me going in and going, Ross, I would love to have seen you locked out and the panic on your face on your show. And AI can't interact with the audience. I don't think it can ever do it to the way, you might be having an avatar up there and you might be able to type something in and it might be able to read it back in a realistic way. But the interaction that we have, and like we have as between you and Chris and I, that just can't happen. Inside jokes. It's not going to know our
Right.
Google Plus inside joke. So I just really think that people are going to be hungry for it and being able to engage in ways and be able to trust it. Like, who's going to AI this, really? I mean, it's this weird look. I mean, no one's going to do that. So, I mean, it's going to be real, and I think people are going to hunger for the realness of conversations like this, interacting with the audience in ways that it's just amazing to me that this tool that we have now, that we can go live and reach everywhere across the globe and talk to people. That's amazing.
Right.
And people we just go, oh, it's live video. Like this, I would have killed for this when I would have started out, right?
Man.
And then now we have this opportunity. And I think businesses are going to have to embrace it if they want to have a community and reach out to, clients and leads.
Jeff, Roberto Blake has said some stuff recently that is interesting. He actually thinks, and I think it's more his opinion, it's not necessarily something that YouTube's saying, that actually like longer live streams are even going to do better. Like people are going to want to jump on these 3-4 hour live streams. And I don't know, maybe that's the case because, to your point, right? People want to have that interaction. What do you think about that?
So even doing stuff for my show tomorrow with Marshall Fox, where he actually does like live designing. Like he takes somebody's logo and revamps it live. I can see that kind of stuff, like training and like working through and letting people see your process. I think that's going to be really cool. I think it's cool right now. I mean, have people watch me carve wood over on Amazon, like, and they'll comment and they like it. And it's because they see that it's real, it's tangible, and I guess it's a little bit relaxing for them. So I think that brands that embrace this and embrace it first and build that community now are going to be way ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I think it's about using it creatively, right? I just feel like, I think about the way the music business went through the ebbs and flows when I was a part of it. And when digital music went nuts with Napster, the companies like that I work for major record labels were like, listen, it's a lower quality file and people want to see the artwork and they want to listen to higher quality. And I'm like, listen, the kids, they don't care. They're trading their hard drives around. It's just like, and so like, it's until people finally said, hey, this is what the people want, then finally the major labels were like, okay, we have to figure out a way to monetize this. And I think, they went through a whole, there was a whole 10 years of ridiculousness until finally it was like,
Right.
we came out of it. And I think with AI, everything is happening so quickly and there's so many things and there's so much stuff happening. It's just a matter of like, hang on and utilize it. And if you are worried that you're going to get replaced by something, then start to figure out how you're not going to get replaced. I mean, and it's not, because I don't think it's going anywhere but up at this point.
Yeah, and I think it's going to make us be better storytellers. I mean, the stuff that like Adobe's coming out with, like the wire removal and the content fill, the generative fill that you can do, like in After Effects now, where you can remove things and it builds it for you. You can and it's just amazing. I think it's going to make us better storytellers. Listen, things are going to change, right? And I said this on Ian's show. You don't have a lot of blacksmiths on corners anymore, right? I mean, you still have blacksmiths, but there's not as many of them around. And I don't like change, really. I don't. I mean, I want my Saturday morning cartoons back. I really do.
Totally.
Because
and pro wrestling on Saturday. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, you have to embrace change, but you don't have to like it, and I compare it to like when you go to a family reunion and that aunt with the soggy mustache comes and tries to kiss you. Listen, you don't have to like it, but you still need to give auntie a hug, right? I mean, you still have to do it, but it's that kind of thing. I mean, you do have to embrace change, but you don't have to like it.
I think, choking a Smurf, the depends with
word pictures, see visual marketing. That's what
yes,
it is.
And now the ant with the soggy mustache.
That's right. We all had one.
This, it's trending on Twitter. Hashtag soggy mustache. Blab on steroids.
See, people still talk about Blab because it was so community driven. That's why people still talk about Blab, because it was all
a big thing.
community.
Ross was big on Blab.
Yeah,
too.
he was big on Blab. Yeah.
Big on Blab.
Big on Blab. There needs to be a T-shirt.
There's an app for that.
So you're about to do this Descript thing, and I know you guys just rolled out of doing something with Descript on Tim and Jim's show, so we won't get too in depth. And for those of you who are watching, the Tim and Jim show is another show that Dr. Fuse does, and you got to check that out. But Descript is one tool I think that is becoming sort of like the essential thing for podcasters, right? It's kind of like the essential tool. Because you can be simple with it. It does like amazingly complicated things, but it feels like this is something you can start and then eventually kind of grow into. Are there any other tools, whether they're software or hardware related, that you would suggest to people who are, not necessarily at your level, but, like, hey, I'm looking to kind of level up a little bit, and not, maybe not necessarily, and I'm not talking about getting a more expensive microphone necessarily, but are there some things that you feel like are important for people to kind of maybe check out?
So a couple things. One of the things when you're this is kind of basic, I think, but a lot of times as content creators, one of the things that we miss out on is capturing our ideas, right? How many times have you had an idea in the shower and then you forgot about it, or you didn't write it down at night? And so being able to capture those, I think that for me, when I was able to figure that out and have a system for me where I didn't lose those ideas, that's huge for me. So I use an app called Roam Research. And what it does is it's an app, and but it lets me jot down ideas and tag them really easily. And so it actually puts them in a database, and it works the way I think. So I really like it. Some people use Notion. My friend Eric Fisher had a guy on, I think it's Tiago Forte.
Yes.
He did a book called Building a Second Brain. Really, really good stuff. I would suggest reading that, because half of your problem will be coming up with ideas and not letting them go off into the ether, and you don't know what happened to that sticky note that you put somewhere. Yes. So being able to do that, and plus I sleep better because I'm able to offload everything, know that it's captured, and I can return to it if I want. So for me, that's a big, big thing. The other tool for people who are wanting to create content, especially live video, I just think, I love Descript. It does a lot of things. but I think you're going to have to get a professional video editing software, non-linear editing tool. I know, Chris, you use Final Cut Pro, which is a great one. I use Premiere. I've been using it for ages. DaVinci Resolve is actually free, but it's really, really powerful. So I would get one of those three if you're going to dive into this, because sometimes you just need to be able to do that things. And plus there's so much stock stuff that you can get for like creating titles and lower thirds that are already put together that you can just drop in and do it really quickly and not have to learn how to, adjust the kerning on your text to make it go, it's already done for you. So a professional system like Final Cut, Premiere, DaVinci Resolve, I would suggest. And I would learn I think text-based editing is here to stay. I still think there's going to be a use case for the things I just mentioned, but even Adobe has embraced text-based editing inside of Premiere. So that's going to be a skill that you're going to need to learn, I think, going forward as well. The AI tools are going to get better and better, but you're still going to need to learn how to edit and learn how to tell a story. Just chumping up clips and dropping them in a timeline doesn't make you a video editor. You need to figure out like how to hook an audience. You need to, and Jim, Chris does a great job with this, with his editing. And, I study his stuff, the way he does it, the way he catches people's attention. So study people like that. I guess those are off the top of my head, the tools that you would need.
I think that's I think what you just said right there is so key that a lot of people don't do is study other people. And it's like, don't be afraid. And like, even if I tried to copy everything that Jeff Sieh does, it still wouldn't be Jeff Sieh. Like, I look at it like, here I go back to music again. So if you play an instrument or you sing or you do something musically related, you have influences, right? But chances are you tried to sing like Whitney Houston or Johnny Cash, or you sat down to play a Flea bass line, right? And you may not get it exactly, but somehow that became an influence on how you are, what your DNA is. You don't want to be exactly that. And I think it's important to study other people like that. And the other thing you mentioned related to the video editing software is that those things can be so daunting, right? But there's so much free YouTube classes out there that like that's how I learned Final Cut. Like I had iMovie on my Mac, and I was using this. And I was like, boy, I want to be able to do something else. And so I started watching videos from Kevin Colby. Yeah. And I was watching Kevin Colby's videos, and I was like, I'm getting Final Cut because I can figure out how to do this and I can figure out how to do that. And like DaVinci's just another example. Like that's free. And then you go onto YouTube and there's tons of people that will tell you how to put together these videos. But once they tell you how to do that stuff, you still have to add your human element. I mean, everyone's talking about, have you used Opus Clip or Opus, what is it, Opus Pro?
Yeah, Opus Clips. That's the one that creates the shorts out of your links of your video.
Oh, no, I have not tried that yet. I think Jim told me about that the other day.
Yeah, you basically take a YouTube link from one of your videos, or you can upload your own file, and it will, even if it's a widescreen video, it'll find like an area to where it'll make it a vertical video. And it actually, it's kind of like the first time you tried ChatGPT, you're like, you didn't expect it to be as good as it was, right? You're like, oh wow, this actually worked. But here's my only issue is that I got it to where I liked it, but I didn't like it for me. Like I was like, this is really good, but I would have done this, and I would have done this, and I would have done this. So let me see if I can pull it down and then adjust it. And by the time I did all that, I was like, I might as well have just done it myself.
Exactly. That's kind of where I land too. I can't wait to try it. I mean, if anything that'll shorten it, I think, it's worth doing. One of the things, and this is kind of a hack that it took me a while to learn. And it goes to your point about the tons of tutorials everywhere on YouTube, was that it's not so much to learn every bit about things. I've forgotten so much about Photoshop and Premiere and After Effects throughout I'm always Googling it. But the thing is I know what the definitions are. I know what a mask is, but I may not remember how to apply that to that specific layer. And so I can Google how to animate a mask in Google, and then I'll get these YouTube videos that'll teach me how to do that. So I would say, like, when you're learning something, make yourself a little glossary, because you will forget what button to press. But if you can remember, like, okay, this is what a mask is, this is what, this term is, that gets you so you can Google it. And so once you just have a glossary or know what to call it, then you're golden, because you can just Google it and find the answer to that problem that you have while you're working.
And I think what I've discovered too, because you guys have definitely been further ahead of me in the video editing process. It's kind of like a lot of things, like with sports, it's the fundamentals. Everything pretty much
Mhm.
uses that same basic fundamental, layers and this and that. And so it doesn't matter which software you use, they're all basically doing that same thing initially. It really becomes, what are those extra things you need? Or right, you're a Mac user, so you might want to use Final Cut.
Mhm.
Maybe you don't want to do this subscription for Adobe, but if you're on a PC, well, I can't use Final Cut. So, but it's the fundamentals. If you were like on one system and went to another, you can start to understand that. And even with Descript, you're seeing the same stuff applies. And now, but
Right.
now you're just adding in, how you affect audio and, and templates, right? Everybody starts to talk about templates. And I think it's really good stuff. And to your point, right? You just go out there and, go to YouTube University, or even better, go to the Jeff C. Descript 101 class when that comes up.
That's right. And the other thing is you'll learn how to I can read a waveform, so I know where a cut is or a breath sound is going to start happening, and you can apply that. Oh, I can add that to. I can actually take clips that aren't the exact length that I need and seamlessly edit them together on the beat, so I can have that piece of music fit my video perfectly. So you'll learn tricks like that as you go along, because you've learned skills. But once again, learn those, like what Jim was saying, learn the basics, learn what they're called. And then I seriously, I'm always Googling stuff, and I've been using the Adobe suite of products since I started, like I said, in Premiere 2 or something like that. So, but I forget all that stuff all the time. So.
Yeah, one of the temptations is when you start using a lot of this software that does simplify the process for you, and you start churning out quantitatively more content. You got to be the trick is, like, if you've got now instead of 4 pieces of content, now you have 17 pieces of content that you want to spit out everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Making sure you didn't take shortcuts on the 17 and you're actually speaking to someone with that content. Right. And like you said, it's very difficult to tell a story in 1 minute on a YouTube short, right? Mm-hmm. You're probably not going to be able to tell a story in a minute, right? That's a huge challenge. But what you can do is be interesting, or entertain someone, or educate someone. You can educate someone in a minute. Like, you may be able to solve their problem. Like, do you have a problem with, is your kitchen sink stopped up? I have this item that unstops sinks. It does this, it does this, and it does this. Here's a link for it. That could solve somebody's problem in a minute, right? Mm-hmm. So that could be a really popular video. So I think lots of times somebody will just say, hey, here's my big podcast, and I'm just going to chop it up, and here's 17 1-minute clips. It's like, well, what are they saying? Are they doing anything for you?
And there's no start, beginning, or end. It's just like, it's like they just stop. And so I don't really like that. But a lot of times I'm able to get and have a question and have a little bit of an answer. And a lot of times I can get that in under a minute, or edit it down to under a minute. And that's why I structure the show that way. And that's another, kind of takeaway for your audience is, like, when you're planning your show, your live show or piece of content, think about how you can repurpose it later, and it will save you a bunch of time. That's why I have those 3 sections and those questions, because it gives me a structure that I can go to every week. It's not a big, like, oh, what am I going to talk about? I know I have 3 structured thing, and I have questions underneath there, and I can actually kind of, use those as repurposable evergreen content. And I try to ask evergreen questions that will get those evergreen answers.
Love it.
You're a better planner than I am, Jeff.
Well, it looks that way. And it's because I've screwed up so much in the past. And also Grace set me up. Like, she set me up before she moved on to have all this. I mean, her documents and her show flow stuff.
It's systems. It comes down to systems, right? Once you get those in place, it really helps a lot.
She was amazing getting that up. And luckily she didn't take all her files when she left. So she's great. No, yeah. So I was just talking to her the other day. So she's loving what she's doing, but I do miss my Grace. She was fun.
Yeah, I used to say every show needs a Grace.
That's right. Amazing Grace. But it is, it's kind of fun now because we're doing the rotating kind of co-hosts. And one, it's kind of a added benefit is that they usually share it to their audience. So I get some other people coming on, and it gives a little bit of dynamic. Like, who's going to show up this week with this crazy bearded guy? Like tomorrow, it's Katie Fox from Ecamp's going to be on there. So that's going to be
nice.
fun. I've had
nice.
my friend Connor, who he does Disney tours. Who'd have thunk?
Yeah.
But he's a great host.
He
co-host.
is great.
And I have another friend, Paul, who runs powwows.com, which is he has the largest live streaming of Native American powwows. It's a huge company, and he gets to come on my show. And so I've been loving it. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so everyone, make sure that you are watching, following, subscribing, wherever. You guys are all over. But, I usually watch on LinkedIn, Social Media News Live, which that's the name as it is now, but watch out for a name change soon. But it is a fantastic show, and I mean it, and it is great. So does Connor have his own show now?
He's got a podcast. He's been doing a podcast for a while. Yeah.
Okay.
I actually met him when I was
as well?
speaking. I don't think he does video.
Okay.
I know.
Yeah, we need to talk to him about that.
So why are people so hesitant? I know, obviously another show that you help produce is Guy Kawasaki, which is a fantastic, huge podcast, and it's audio only, and Connor does an audio only. So maybe not specific to them, but do you feel like there are still people that are just maybe afraid to turn on the camera, or like what is it that keeps people from doing video at this point?
I think the biggest hiccup is a lot of people who have done audio only podcasts in the past. A lot of times they will use Zoom to record their podcasts, which is horrible, by the way. Don't do it. Use Ecamm.
Yes.
But they're used to that, but there's so many times their guests say, "Oh, I'm not camera ready. This is going to be audio." They're really worried about their guests, and I'm like, I've never had, because they know if you start doing it as a show like video, they're not going to ask that question, and like they're going to dress up and go out of the house sometimes. So like, let them, just do it. I've been trying to get Guy to do it. I wish he would, because there's something there. Like there's a lot of people who just love that audio podcast. I get that. But there's something about, like, when Guy was talking with Martha Stewart, people are going to tune in on YouTube to watch that. Like Eric Fisher, another one. I love his show, Beyond the To-Do List. It's a great productivity podcast. I would have loved to see Eric and Seth Godin talk back and forth on a YouTube watch. I mean, to me, they're, and forgive me, Eric and Guy, but they're leaving so much on the table because of that.
Love.
There's so much on the table. Like even my show, which doesn't get a ton of views over on YouTube, it's still people come and watch it and comment. And I'm like, there's so much you can do with video. I'm a big fan of doing both.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Jeff. I think even if there's that fear of going live, you can record it and then upload it, right?
Yeah,
So don't feel like, oh, well, I'm worried, because we're live and we might say something wrong. Well, then record it. But you have that video that you can now repurpose and drive people back to either listen to the podcast or watch the episode. And that's where I think a lot of us, miss out. And that's where I appreciate, Chris so much, and I'm grateful for what he does for us with Dealcasters, because I know we're getting a lot of views because he's taking those clips and repurposing it, on all the tubes. And I think that's kind of the future. I think there's still just such a small percentage that is doing it. And even when you look at content creation in general, right? You talk about people creating content. Like LinkedIn has 900 million, whatever you want to call them, subscribers. And I think it's less than 3% of the people on LinkedIn are actually creating content.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jim, because we move in the circles where we see big people like Amy Porterfield, and we see, Mari Smith, and some, people that you interview, and like having you guys on my show, you see people who are at this level, creating content, and you think, why am I even doing it? Because I only have, 50 views or whatever. But go to your Sunday school class, or go to your church, your PTA meeting or whatever, and look around the room, and how many people there are creating content? Probably not any of them, right? And you are doing that. And those 50 people can trickle down to so much opportunity that you can get from just doing a consistent live show or putting out content consistently, once a week or whatever your schedule is. Most people are not doing what you're doing. And we have to remember that, because we are on this space. We're looking at everybody else like, oh, I really wish I could edit like Chris. Oh, I really wish I was a Marine like Jim and I could have the platform that I could talk about. And you compare yourself to other people, right? And
Yeah.
you can't do that. I mean, you have to, you have to start where you're at. Everybody starts at zero. When you first start a live show, no one will be there. And a really cool hack for that is do what I used to do when I was a magician and do plants in the audience. Like you plant people, you invite your friends on like, hey, I'm going live here. Can you ask this question? And then that gets the ball rolling. I used to do that all the time when I first started out. And so use your friends, use them hard.
Make sure they're good friends though.
Yeah.
That's fantastic advice. It's absolutely fantastic advice. Is like you said, walk into your church and look around the room and how many of those people are doing something. We are we've got the blinders on, right? And we're like content creators, content entrepreneurs, and we're doing all of this stuff. And in actuality, we are still a fraction of a percentage of the overall people. It's sort of like when people used to say, why would I create a podcast? There are just so many podcasts. It's like, guess what? There may be 3.5 million podcasts out there, but only 20% of them are active.
Right. Most people stop after the 7th episode. They stop making them after the 7th episode.
Well, when Anchor first launched and it was free to do it, like everybody was doing one podcast on the internet, right? And so it was like, professors were setting up courses. Okay, set up a podcast. Oh, there's a free hosting service. I don't have to pay $20 to listen. So boom, so there's like millions of podcasts with one episode, and it's like, don't look at the stats. Like everyone quits. And it's just like most people don't want to do the work necessary, the consistency, and learning day after day and stick with it to be successful. Most people don't. And I'm just
congratulations I was going to say congratulations to Catherine Lane. She has 10 years of podcasting.
Wow,
that's amazing.
That is amazing.
She's an amazing person.
I think I have a sound effect for that somewhere.
There we go.
Catherine. There we go. It's like the stock Rodecaster Pro 2 applause.
That's right.
It really is. I'm sorry.
To the trombones.
Jenny Gold's in the house. Jenny Gold, thank you for being our plant. No, I'm kidding. We don't have any plants anymore. We don't have to do that anymore. But Jenny, thank you for coming. And let me see if I missed. Let me make sure I didn't miss anyone. Catherine, thank you so much for all of this. And this is like 10 years. That's a lot. That is like, so you want to talk about consistency. Whew, now
I think she said earlier that she has started adding video. Was that her?
Yes, she did. She did.
Yeah, that it's actually getting more downloads than her podcast. And that's the thing is, it sounds so weird, but a lot of discovery happens over on YouTube for podcasts. And I mean, Tom Webster at one time was saying that there's more listens on like YouTube than Apple Podcasts or something like that, because there's no way to track it. Like it's not until they started doing this podcasting thing, it was hard to track. So yeah, I think a lot of discovery is happening over on YouTube, and that's awesome.
Yep. Yeah. And it just goes back to, if you've got a podcast, why not create some video for it? I mean, even if it's just doing shorts or taking 5 minutes out of it and like, here's the highlight. Chris has done that with some of our previous episodes where he'll just do kind of like a highlight reel, like here's 5 minutes where we're like talking with Kelly Roach, and if you want to watch the full episode, this is where you go. I think that in and of itself is a great way to take your video and drive more traffic. And
I know Megan Powers is here, and she's done like live video and podcasting for years too. It's that consistency. It really is, and it's hard. It's hard doing one. It's not easy, or like you said, everybody would be doing it. But once you get in that groove, I don't know anybody who's been consistent and not seen some sort of benefit out of it. I just don't. Right. I think somebody who's been consistent and doesn't give up, there's always some benefit that happens at the end.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is just getting better, just the reps, right? You don't go to the
Yeah.
gym once and come back shredded. You gotta keep going, and that makes me like I need to go to the gym now. I'm
See,
glad you mentioned that.
I used to lift weights, but they're so heavy.
We waited all show for the best dad joke, and we got
That's
it.
right. That's right.
Ladies and gentlemen, jeffc.com is where you go to see the headbeard of Social Media News Live. Make sure you go and watch, follow, subscribe Social Media News Live. And the Descript 101 course is launching soon. I signed up. I know that there are a ton of people that can't wait for this, me being one of them, because I'm always asking Jeff, hey, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? And finally, I'm like, I'm done bugging him. I'm just going to get the course. I'm going to get it soup to nuts, and I'm going to quit bugging Jeff C. So jeffc.com/descript101 for those that are listening on the podcast. We'll put the link in the show notes as well. Jeff, man, this has been even more awesome than I thought it would be. Anything else? Do we need to talk about the eCam camp that's coming up?
Oh,
or-
that's that. Yeah, that's coming up in October. That'll be fun. They're having a creator camp. They are limiting seats, so if you haven't got one, make sure you guys go do that. It's going to be set up such in a cool way that I'm so excited. It's actually like a summer camp. Like Leslie Samuels is the camp director. I'm one of the camp counselors, and I'm going to be taking people around to different stations where they're going to be learning podcasting, live video, all sorts of cool skills. And it's going to be, I think it's north of Boston. So I've never been in that area, so I'm stoked. I think Jim is going to be there as well. So it's going to be fun. So I don't know. I just go to eCam's channel. You'll see it there. eCam with 2 M's.
Yeah, I know they were it was getting very close to all the seats being full. And so you definitely want to do that. Now, I don't know. I'm a little worried that I could get in trouble with the camp counselor and I might get put in detention, but I'll try not to.
I don't know what we'll do. We'll probably, what is it? Run your underwear up the flagpole. Is that what they used to do in camp? I can't remember. So.
Okay, you had me at the soggy mustache, and now we're running underwear up a flagpole. I mean, this show is going off the rails, man.
It's going downhill. I know.
Megan says they do one or every other one live on Making a Marketer, but she needs a VA to help me repurpose. I have suggestions for you, Megan. So in case you DM me if you're looking for VAs. I think we all have VAs here. So, but mine's better than yours. No.
Mine's my daughter. You can't beat that. So I mean,
it's true. Oh God. Awesome.
You're lucky. Your daughter actually is willing to do the work. That tends to be.
She's good.
No, it tends to be the problem when you try to get your kids because you're their parent. They're like, oh, you really want that by this deadline?
But she's charging me a pretty penny, so I'll tell you that.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
So yeah,
Megan, I'm not sure, but I might be at Podcast Movement, and I believe you guys are definitely going, right?
I have a ticket.
I think it's definitely maybe at the moment.
That's right.
We were talking about that yesterday because since they didn't pick us to be on the stage, we're debating it now. So
yeah, it does come down to, and that's the other thing when you have a live show is like I am there for my audience each week. So even if I'm not doing a show, what I usually have done before is pre-record it, but I don't like to do that too often. But I mean, that's the thing you got to think about. Like when I travel, I've done shows from the hotel room before, but you always be there for your audience. So that's important too.
Yep.
Jenny loves your jokes, Jeff. So you do have one fan.
one person who likes my dad jokes. Yeah.
Hey, I can relate to the dad jokes. So
awesome. Well, thank you, Jeff, and thank you everyone who has joined us today. Jenny, Megan, Ross, as Catherine. Thank you for amazing contributions from all of you. If I forgot anyone, Denise. Thanks for joining us, and make sure you go and follow Jeff C. jeffc.com, Social Media News Live, as well as the new Descript course and all of the things. And as always, don't fear the gear. And that file's not going, so we're just going to end.
Once again,
This is how
that's
weird.
what happened.
This is how we do it.
Okay, now we can't find the file, and now I can't find my mouse on the screen. This is great.
See?
This is fantastic.
Live video pros, folks.
Yes, this is where you start talking to people about people.
This is
This is where you start talking about Google
What a
Plus.
so he's
jerk
not even
Ross
embarrassed.
Brand.
It's happened before. It will happen again.
Okay, I'm just finishing.